how the clause may be better understood. Consequently, we must look for a more convincing explanation of this clause. God's word furnishes us with one which is not only good and holy, but is full of much consolation. Nothing would have been achieved if Jesus Christ had simply endured bodily death. It was necessary for him to feel the severity of God's judgment, that he might step between and, by satisfying his wrath, somehow prevent it from falling upon us. It was thus necessary for him to fight hand to hand the powers of hell and the terror of everlasting death. The prophet declares that the chastisement of our peace was laid upon him, that he was beaten and scourged by the Father for our crimes, and afflicted for our iniquities, thereby signifying that he took the place of sinners as a surety and pledge, or rather, as the chief debtor to endure the punishment which they should have borne. He was no different from them except that the pangs of death could not hold or overcome him. No one should wonder, then, that he is said to have descended into hell, since he suffered the death which God's wrath lays upon evildoers. So that this may be more readily understood, is it not a terrible and miserable abyss to feel oneself forsaken and abandoned by God? To receive no help from him when we call upon him, and to expect only that he has already plotted to ruin and destroy us. Yet, as we know, it was to that extremity that Jesus Christ came, being compelled by such dire anguish to exclaim, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Although some maintain that he was expressing not his own feelings but the thoughts of others, that is scarcely credible, for it is obvious that his words sprang from deep bitterness of heart. However, we should not infer from this that God was ever hostile to or angry with his Christ, for how could the Father be angry with his beloved Son, in whom, as he said, he was well pleased? Or how could Christ, by his intervention, have appeased the Father in respect of men, if he had made God angry with him? What we say is that he bore the burden of God's vengeance, in that he was beaten and afflicted by God's hand, and endured all the signs of wrath which God displays to sinners when he is angry with them and punishes them. So Hilary explains that by the death of Jesus Christ we have obtained this blessing. Death is now abolished. And elsewhere he comes close to our opinion, as when he writes that the cross, death, and hell mean life for us. Again he says that God's Son was in hell, but that man is lifted up to heaven. To sum up, Jesus Christ, in contending against the might of the devil, the terror of death, and the pains of hell, was victorious and triumphed over them, so that we need no longer fear in death those things that our Prince has scattered and destroyed.